Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications.
Well, good day to you. It is November the 23rd, 2020, and I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day wherever you happen to be. If this is the first time you've ever listened to Search for Signs, I do want to welcome you and thank you to this channel. Now, what we talk about here is we talk about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom. Through the course of the videos that we put up, we discuss in greater depth about who and what Maitreya is and why the Masters are returning now to the everyday world and really what it means for all of us. Now, it's important to remember while you're listening to this that I'm presenting this information for your consideration and your consideration only. I'm not trying to change your spiritual or religious beliefs whatsoever. But the most important thing I want you to consider is the priorities of what Maitreya says are the most important things that humanity can do right now, because our very survival depends upon it. He puts it like this, that peace in and of itself is the most important thing that humanity can do. If you're like most people, you're probably very cynical, and it's natural because you see all the divisions in the world, you watch the news, you see the hatred and the greed and so forth and experience in our own life, and you probably like, there's no way that peace could ever be accomplished, right? Well, Maitreya puts it like this, very simply. It's very important. Without sharing, there could be no justice. Without justice, there could be no peace. And without peace, there could be no future for humanity. So our very survival depends upon whether we can create peace. And if we don't, then our very survival is in jeopardy. So just something to consider. Now, I do also want to thank those who have come back to listen to these videos again and maybe even again and again. So, and of course, those people who have commented, who asked questions, great. Thank you so very much, because that helps to keep the conversation going, and it also helps for all of us, myself included, to know a bit more about this information as time goes on. So I do want to thank you. Even if I don't agree with what you're saying in your comments or even in your questions toward your comments and so forth, I do want to thank you as well. So anyway, well, let's get on into it. All right, now the first comment comes from Matthew Maxey. And this is a classic example of a comment that I don't necessarily agree with. But we're going to discuss it and maybe get to the bottom of some of this information for all of us. All right, now, he's talking about Alice Bailey and Helena Blavatsky. And in a lot of my videos, I talk about those two because those two women who lived 100 or so years ago were key in bringing the knowledge of the Masters back to humanity, because that information and the truth about the Masters has long been forgotten. But there was a time long, long ago when the Masters were out teaching humanity directly, and then they retreated and went back into the mountain and desert regions of the world and worked from behind the scenes for eons through their disciples in the world. The men and women who have contributed to society and have advanced humanity at whatever level it is and whatever field of endeavor they worked in, whether they were aware of it or not, were working with the plans of these Masters. And now the time is coming when they're coming back into the world. The first one is already on TV, the first of these Masters, who's the master of all the Masters, Maitreya. Now, again, let me reiterate this. I'm just putting this information out for your consideration. And your consideration only. I'm trying to be respectful of people's backgrounds and religious and spiritual beliefs. So the most important thing, like I was talking about, is the priorities of Maitreya. But the thing of it is, one thing to consider too, when I get to this question, is the fact that, we all have different beliefs. Okay, so anyway. But he says, Alice and Helena were soothsayers and lost to occultism and drenched in the new coming of the satanic takeover. And that's a fact. I pray for you all, especially you in this video, as you are deceived and lost, shaking my head. Stop and look around you. Take a moment to realize you are being deceived. What do you have to lose? Oh, your soul for eternity. Please listen, just pray and research Scripture. Pray to Yeshua, Jesus. He is the truth and the way. There is no other than He and He alone. Pray for the truth, no matter what the cost. I pray you are brought to the truth, and out of these lies and deceptions, may you know Him and peace in yourself. Well, Matthew, I do want to thank you for your kind prayers, and I will take as many prayers as you give me. But let me just get, if you don't mind, I'm just going to address this. I'm not trying to argue with you on this. I just want to kind of talk about it a little bit. Now, when you say that Alice Bailey and Helena Blavatsky were soothsayers and lost to occultism and drenched in the new coming of the satanic takeover, and that is a fact, that's actually just your opinion. I hate to be the first to tell you that, but all of us are guilty of this. We take our opinions and we make facts out of it when they're really just opinions. And so we all have different opinions. Now, the most important thing that I want you to look at, and you can think that I'm deceived, and that's your opinion. It doesn't really matter to me. How do I say this? I'm presenting this information for everyone to consider for themselves. We're all grown-ups here. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. There's no donation linked at the bottom of my YouTube channel, so therefore I'm trying to get money from people or anything like this. I do this mainly because I would like to see a future for not only myself, but for my daughter and her children, maybe, possibly. One day when she's a lot older than she is now, she'll have children, and then their children and their children's children, and everybody else's children. But it's also, I think, key to look at it like this, is I'm not asking you to change your beliefs. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not asking anybody else to change their beliefs, but just, you can be a fundamentalist Christian, such as yourself, and want peace. You can be a fundamentalist Christian and want justice for all. You can be a fundamentalist Christian and want to see the ending of hunger. How is that not in line with what Jesus talked about 2,000 years ago? If you're a fundamentalist Christian that's pro-life, be pro-life for everything. Rather than just pro-life to ending abortion, be pro-life and want to see, the ending of hunger, the ending of war, the ending of executions, justice for all. So everyone has their basic necessities and their needs taken care of. Why not? You know what I'm saying? So if I'm guilty of trying to convince anybody of anything, I'm trying to convince people that we need to start looking at how we can create justice, which Maitreya says the only way to do that is through sharing. Now, sharing is not what you would think in terms of communism or even socialism for that matter. It's a nation-to-nation process where nations that have a lot of excesses will give to the common pool, and then those nations who maybe have a lot less excess to give back in payment can use those excesses that they might need. Because according to the masters, every nation has some excesses of something, some needs of other things. And through this process, the needs of every single nation and the people within every single nation will be met. And that will bring about justice, which will eventually bring about peace. So I don't see any, how do I say this? I don't see anything out of line with what Maitreya says about his priorities for the world, as is what Jesus said 2,000 years ago. Except Jesus was talking to the people of Palestine 2,000 years ago, and Maitreya's speaking to the whole world. Now, you don't have to believe he's the Christ. I'm not telling people to believe he's the Christ. I've had enough experiences to think that there is a lot of truth to the fact that he is something quite extraordinary, but you don't have to believe that. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just, but look at it like that. But I do, in the end, Matt, I do want to thank you for praying for me and praying for everybody else. Keep doing that. But, look at what you can do along with everybody else about creating peace. So helping to end hunger and so forth. You can do it while still being a Christian. In fact, it's right in line with what Jesus said. So hopefully that helps. Now, you also talked about the Antichrist, and I know you're thinking that Maitreya is the Antichrist. We can agree to disagree on this one. But according to the Ageless Wisdom teachings, the Antichrist is an energy that was released out through the Axis powers back during World War I and World War II. It's already done, come and gone. So anyway, just as, and I always use this as an example, just when when Jesus said, I come not to bring peace, but to bring a sword, to set father against son, mother against daughter, brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor, right? That's a saying, and that's a verse in the Bible. Was he talking about an actual sword? No, he was talking about, it was a symbol. He was talking about the love nature of God, the Christ principle of God, that when it's sent out into humanity, it creates temporarily the divisions that we see. So if you're very reactionary and conservative, you become more reactionary and conservative. If you're progressive, you become more progressive. And this isn't just in politics, this is in every aspect of human endeavor. And it creates that division. But it's a temporary thing. But that's what he was talking about there. It's the same thing, I believe, when it comes to the Antichrist. John didn't write it in there as meaning to be interpreted as a person coming to deceive all of humanity. It was a symbol that he used talking about this energy that destroys the old ways of thinking and relating. So anyway, hopefully that helps. All right, now next question. And there's some comments to this. This comes from Steady in the Light. Just because Benjamin Creme said that Sai Baba was good doesn't mean he was. That's true. I can't disagree with that statement. Look up BBC and Sai Baba on YouTube. I agree with Jiddu Krishnamurti on Gurus. I do too. I couldn't agree more. And I think even Sai Baba would agree. Benjamin Creme promoted Krishnamurti as a fourth degree initiate and yet never seems to have really understood him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have tried to codify truth and promote these gurus and intermediaries of God. On this scale, Hitler was apparently a second-degree initiate. Yeah, we talked about that. On that note, I don't know about you, but I don't agree with the scale that doesn't factor in the ability to love. Okay, that's true. Well, I mean, not true, but that's your opinion. It's utterly meaningless to me, and the initiate scale was used by his organization to compare themselves and mostly feel uninvolved and less than. I knew Benjamin Creme. In fact, I grew up with him. He came to my house when I was a child, and I went to his house. And after a lifetime of suffering, which I finally freed myself from, long story, I'm starting to realize that I was indoctrinated by my parents into something false. 10 years ago, Ben said Maitreya was on TV, and that the day of declaration where everyone would hear Maitreya's words in their heads simultaneously would happen. So, do you see any sign of that happening at the moment? I see it with every passing day, to be honest with you, because let me explain. Now, your opinion of Benjamin Creme is your opinion of Benjamin Creme. I knew Benjamin Creme for over 25 years, and I have a different opinion of who he was. But I can see where you're coming from. And a lot of people have that same opinion about this information based on the fact that they haven't really seen anything going on in 10 years. And, since he made the announcement that Maitreya was on TV. And I get it. I get it, right? Now, what do I mean by seeing it, with every passing day? With things like the coronavirus, with the economic uncertainty, with the divisions in the world, but also at the same time, this swell of public opinion changing. It seems very slow, but it's actually quite rapid the way that it's doing it, where people are starting to wake up to the fact that we need to do something. We need to create justice. Now, they don't know how to do it. It's the same way they don't know how to, let's say, cure the environment of climate change and, those kind of things. They need to be focused more on pollution, as far as I'm concerned, which I know they are in terms of greenhouse gases, but in terms of real pollution that's making us sick, that's probably should be the biggest priority. But, they're waking up to the fact that we need to do something. It wasn't like that 30 years ago or 40 years ago or even 50 years ago. So there is a change. Now, I do think that, because the times that I know I've seen Maitreya, he never claimed to be anything other than just, the person that I was talking to. And yet it made such a profound impact on my life that I can't really deny that it wasn't something quite extraordinary. And I do think that, Maitreya being on TV and the way that he's doing it for a reason. He's doing it because the most important thing, just like I said in the beginning, it's not a matter of whether he is who Benjamin Creme thought that he was or said that he was. The most important thing is the priorities. So if you don't believe that Maitreya is real, fine. But you can't really deny the fact that we do need to start looking at how to create peace or how to save our environment, right? Well, do it. I don't see any problem with it. And then in time, if Benjamin Creme is right, he'll be proved right. And if he's wrong, well, you've helped to save the planet, in some way, and grow as a person in the process. I don't see what the difficulty is in it. You know, I know, there was, it's probably maybe 6 months or so before Maitreya actually came out on TV, I think. Well, maybe, no, I take that back. It was about a year and a half, now that I'm thinking about it. It was actually 6 months before the stars started to appear. I saw Maitreya on the street, and he struck up a conversation with me, and he said, "You'll see me real soon." He said, "You're going to see me on TV real soon, and we're going to change the world together." So I have faith in what he's saying. Now, whether the other thing too, steady in the light, is you might have actually seen him on TV and just not realized that you've seen him. And it's a very real possibility. And I'm not saying it to people to add to their confusion about it, but he's not speaking on a cable access, here in Smyrna, Georgia. He's speaking out in front of millions of people in some way. And I wouldn't be surprised when he does finally declare himself on TV. The majority of us go, "I've seen that guy on TV." I saw him on TV for years. Had no idea that was him. Maybe, maybe not. So that's just my humble opinion on it. Now, in terms of what you said about Sai Baba, you either believe he's good or not. I mean, I'm not saying that somebody should, go follow the teachings of Sai Baba just because Benjamin Creme said it. I don't even think Benjamin Creme would say something like that. Sai Baba talked at great length about the ending of suffering, the ending of hunger, the need for justice, the need for peace. Right in line with what Jesus talked about or Maitreya talks about. So anyway, hopefully that helps. Like I said, I would love to hear more about, you growing up with Benjamin Creme. I think that's really fascinating. But, obviously you're quite jaded and cynical about it since you haven't really seen Maitreya on TV. But, we'll see. Like I said, hopefully your attitude will change when you see him on TV. But anyway, I do appreciate you sharing that. That's very kind of you. Alrighty. I think that's pretty much it. Now, I do want to read one of Benjamin Creme's master's article. It's entitled "The Son of Man." I've read it many times. There's actually a video on YouTube where Benjamin Creme reads it, which is probably a lot better than me reading it to you. And even better, I think it would be better if you find it online on the Share International website and read it for yourself. So that way you can kind of, really look at with the words and kind of internalize what the master is trying to say. But I will say this, I could pretty much say that I could read this message in every one of my videos, and it's hands down the most important of all the articles that he's written, because it talks about who and what the Christ is and what he really does mean for humanity. And just like we talked about just a few comments ago, where what's his name, Matthew Maxey, where he's talking about Jesus being the only true Son of God and all that kind of stuff. This really addresses it and this is coming from one of the masters. So hopefully this helps, and we can go from there and learn a little bit more about this information. This is entitled "The Son of Man," and it was written 36 and a half years ago. It says, "Many people await the return of the Christ with trepidation and fear. They sense that his presence will promote great changes in all departments of life. His values, they rightly assume, will necessarily alter their ways of thinking and living, and they blanch at such a prospect. Besides, so mystical has been the view of the Christ presented down the centuries by the churches that many fear his judgment and omnipotent power. They await him as God come to punish the wicked and reward the faithful. It is sadly to be regretted that such a distorted vision of the Christ should so have permeated human consciousness. No such being exists. In order to understand the true nature of the Christ, it is necessary to see him as one among equal sons of God, each endowed with full divine potential, differing only in the degree of the manifestation of that divinity. That he has achieved the fullness of that divinity is his glory, and well may we stand in reverence to his achievement. That this same achievement is rare indeed is also indisputably true. But the wonder of the Christ for men is that he was one of them. Not there is in the trials and sufferings of men, but he did know it. Each step of the path that men still tread has he painfully trodden. Nothing is there in the whole panorama of human experience that he has not shared. Thus truly is he the Son of Man. There can be little doubt that were he to appear unannounced in our midst, few would recognize him. So far from the general notion is he that he would pass unnoticed in the crowd. Thus it is today among his brothers as he awaits man's invitation to begin his mission. Many who see him daily know him not. Others recognize him but are afraid to speak. Still others wait and pray, hopeful that he may be the one whom they dare not hope. Only his declaration before the world will establish him in the sight and hearts of men. While we await the day of days, let us clarify in our minds the reason for his return. Let us understand the nature of the task which he has set himself. To establish in our midst the fact of God has he come. To recreate the divine mysteries is he here. To teach men how to love and love again is he among us. To establish man's brotherhood does he walk the earth once more. To keep faith with the Father and with man does he accept this burden. To usher in the new age has he returned. To consolidate the treasures of the past, to inspire the marvels of the future, to glorify God and man has he descended from his high mountain. Let us look at his priorities: the establishment of peace, the inauguration of the system of sharing, the removal of guilt and fear, the cleansing of the hearts and minds of men, the education of mankind in the laws of life and love, an introduction to the mysteries, the beautification of our cities, the removal of barriers to trade and interchanges of peoples, the creation of a pool of knowledge accessible to all. That such a task is not an easy one, not even for the Son of Man, is clear. Ancient habits of division and separation have strong roots, while fear and superstition cast their spell over millions of mankind. But never before in the history of the world has the teacher come better equipped for his task. Maitreya has come to do battle with ignorance and fear, division and want. His weapons are spiritual understanding, knowledge, and love. His shining armor is truth
Remember
itself.
to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.